Hello, this is Randy with Excel for Freelancers, and welcome to the File Conversion Manager. In this week's exclusive training, I'm going to show you how you can create any type of file conversion all from Excel, whether it's a single file or multiple files in a single folder. And of course, that can be from PDF to Word, or from Word back to PDF, or any other type of combination. It's all going to be here. So many possibilities with this training, and that's going to include so many types of formats. It's going to be an incredible training. I cannot wait to share it with you. So let's get started. All right, thanks so much for joining me on this incredible, unique training. I cannot wait to share it with you. First of all, why? Why would we want Excel to be able to help us convert file formats? What does Excel have to do with that? Well, Excel is a great tool because it can not only keep track of the files we converted, we can easily automate things just the way we want to. We can convert all the files in a single folder or a specific file, or we can automate different conversions, and with these tools, it can really help us expand our work and automate things and save us a lot of time. So Excel can be a really powerful tool in that factor. So I bring you these trainings each and every Tuesday. I just ask a few things for your help. I would just like if you could subscribe. That would really help us out. And don't forget to click on that notification icon bell. That's going to get you alerted when we bring new trainings to you. If you do like this application, I've got 200 of my best applications in a single zip file, and that's just for $77. That's less than 40 cents per application. So it's going to be a really incredible deal. You can also get this for free using the links down below. That is no problem. Just submit your email or Facebook Messenger, and we're going to send that right over to you. All right, let's get started because I've got a lot to share with you today. So I've just basically started out with a very, very simple format. We're going to get beyond that. We don't need to focus on the formatting and the fields here in this particular training because I really want to focus on the conversion. I want to focus on the automation. I want to focus on the automation and the coding. So that's going to go into that so we can understand it. So what are we trying to do? Well, basically what I want to do is I want to create conversions easily. What kind of conversions do I want to create? Well, I want to create a ton of them. I want to create, possibly, if we have an existing PDF, a text file, a document, a CSV, an XLS, or a JPG, or a PowerPoint. I want to take that and I want to convert that PDF possibly into this many different conversions, or a text document into this many type of folders, So I really want to be able to expand on this conversion, right? So where did I get this table from? If I have a CSV, I want to maybe turn it into a JPEG or a PNG. Or if I have a current PDF, maybe I want to convert it into an Excel file, or maybe I want to turn it into a GIF file or something like that. So how do we do that? Well, there's many ways we can do that. Actually, I don't see Excel on this list, but I may add it in the future. So how do we do that? Well, basically, we can use an engine, a conversion engine. Excel doesn't have to do the hard work because there are tools that do that. So Excel can incorporate in that. If we want to turn a PowerPoint into a PNG or an HTML, we can do that with this tool. So we've got this table here that's going to help us determine that. And we're going to use another engine. What is that engine called? Well, we're going to use something called Cloud Convert. Cloud Convert is a great tool. It's going to allow us to do that. So for example, if we want to convert inside this, if we want to convert, let's say we have an image or something, and we want to convert, let's take a look at image. We may want to have a converted TIFF to, we can convert it to different formats. Or let's say we have something a little bit more common. Why don't we do a presentation? If we have a PowerPoint presentation here, we may want to convert that to different types, an ODP or something like that. Also with PDFs, they have a lot of them. Even if you have a spreadsheet, let's get back to there. Even if you have a spreadsheet, we can do that inside. Let's take a look at XLS. Maybe you want to convert that to a number. We can convert that to an image. We can convert that to a different spreadsheet or even a different document. We can convert it to a XLS to PDF. So many different combinations. One of the most common that have been requested is how do we convert PDF to Word? So we can do it like document here. If we look down into the document, we see we have here PDF. So what are the conversions here? Well, we can convert that to doc. DOCX, HTML, ebook. So there's tons of combination. I've taken some of the most common ones, these common ones, and I've put them into this table here. So you can easily expand on this. I just used a few sample ones to get, but basically that's where it generated from. It generated from this table here into Cloud Convert. Now this is a free account that lets you use it for free. At least there's 25 conversions per day. That's pretty good. You can expand on, of course, you want to pay for that, but that'll allow you up to what, 800 per month. Pretty cool if you want to do that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take this API and we're going to use that within Excel, and we're going to combine it with Integromat. Integromat, we're going to create this really cool function where we're going to pull it from a webhook. We're going to get that information from Excel. We're going to send it into Dropbox. We're going to create an upload. Then what we're going to do is we're going to send it over to the Cloud Convert, and we're going to get the information back, which is that converted file, and we're going to bring that back into Excel, and we're going to download it. So we're going to do all of that in this training. I'm going to show you how to do that. Now, what we also want to do in this is we may want to convert a single file, or we may want to convert all files in a single folder. So we need to browse for that folder. We want to convert it. So we want to, if we have a PDF, we may want to convert it to any one of these. If we have, let's say, a document, we may want to convert it to any one of these. So we need a dynamic drop-down list based on this. So what do I mean by that? So for example, if they've chosen a PDF, I want all of these as options. If they've chosen a TXT, I want all of these as the available conversion options. So for example, here, let's go to the top PDF. Again, we've got all of these options that we saw. Or perhaps if we want a TXT, then we have a little bit less options, but here. So notice these options here are the same ones here in this TXT. And to do that, we're going to use a dynamic drop-down list. Now in the past, we've used VBA, but we can easily use just some formulas on that. We're going to call that the destination, and it's right here. This destination is the dynamic destination. Notice when I change this here to the top one, PDF, notice that those destination lists is going to change, right? So how do we do that? Well, we do that with just a few simple formulas. The first thing what I want to do is I want to link the destination, this main destination. What are we starting out with? We're starting out with PDF, so it's this. So if I select this, we have a named range. That named range is called source type. Source type. It's based on this range right here. So it is that named range that I'm going to use in this data validation. If we click on the data validation, here we see it's called source type. Okay, source type. So basically then what I want to do is create another named range. If we take a look at this one, data validation, that's going to be called destination type. Now that destination type is dynamic and it's based on the source type here. So we're going to use that here. So if we take a look inside the named ranges under the formula name manager, and we see the destination type, it is based on an offset. So it's dynamic. And this time what we're going to do is we're going to use count if. Count if anything that is not blank. Why do I want to do that? Or count anything that's not zero? Because it's possible that if we select something here like text, it doesn't have those three options. So what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is this. Let's go to text. Now take a look at this. Now I only want that drop-down list to contain starting here and going down to here. So I don't want any blanks in that drop-down list down here. So we want to use the dynamic named range to achieve that. And it's going to be based on this. But notice these are formulas, so we can't use blank because these are formulas. But we can use a zero. So what I mean is I don't want to count the zeros. I only want to count those non-zeros, which is here. So that's the named range. So let's take a look inside that name manager one more time and take a look at the destination. So basically what we're doing is we're starting on Q5. We don't need any rows down or any columns down. We're going to keep it consistent. We're going to count if. I'm going to count all of the cells admin Q5 through Q15 that are not equal 0. So does not equal and 0. Anything that does not equal 0. And I just want that single column. So what that's going to do is it's going to count only those cells that are non-zeros. In this case, those only cells are starting on Q5 all the way here to Q12. It's only going to count those. So that way our dynamic named range is going to be, and it's based on this value here. So let's take a look at some of the formulas here. So we know that this is linked to G3 inside our conversion manager. It's linked directly to here. But now how do I get this dynamic name, this dynamic drop-down list? Well, that's going to be based on the indirect. So I'm going to use the R1C1. Let's just go over this formula. Equals indirect, right? When we use indirect, we have the reference text. What is the reference text? Like A1. And then what it's going to be is like A1. So if we put in just the reference text here, right, Then what we want to do is we want to know, is it going to be R1 C1 style, which is false, or A1 style. In this case, what I want is I want dynamic rows and I want dynamic columns going to be based on that. So what I want to make sure is going to be R1 C1. So what we need to do is we need to determine what the row is and what the column is in this style indirect. So let's go back into the formula and see just how we did that. So we want, remember, dynamic rows. First thing what I want to do is I want to find the row. What are we going to start on the row is? The row is going to be basically whatever the current row is here. So we can use the current row. In other words, notice I've started this on row 5. Also, our list starts on row 5. So if I use the same rows, our row, I want to return whatever is in row. And what about the column, right? We know the current row. So it's either going to return this, 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 this. Then all we need to do is determine the column. So how are we going to determine the column? Well, the column is going to be based on this, right? I want to find txt. I want to know what column this is in. In this case, it's column 4. Or if we do a match, if we run a match, it's going to be the second, right? I'm running a match based on the source type. If I use match and I'm going to look for txt, it's going to return 2 because it's the second one. But I don't really want 2, I want 4 because I want the 4th column. So how do we do that? Well, we add 2. And that's just what we did here. So we're going to match Q4. Remember, that's absolute. We're going to base it on the source type. This right here will return 2. If I add another 2, it's going to return 4. 4 is the column. Column D is what I want. So we know the column here, column 4. We know the row, which is whatever row it's on, which is in this case 5 or whatever. Then we want to make sure that A1 is going to be R1 C1 style, R1. So I'm putting the R for the row, the C for the column. That's how we're notating that. That's going to give us exactly the indirect. So then all I need to do is just copy that formula all the way down. Notice we're using row here. That way each row is going to change. So the only thing that changes is the row here. Everything else stays the same. The column stays the same. We're matching the exact same Q4 every single time. That won't change. So that's how we can drop that down. And then we can bring it down. It's going to automatically be relative based on whatever's in txt. So again, if I change that to the last one, PowerPoint here, we're going to see that that automatically changes here. And that's going to help us because we need to know what options are available. What options, if I want to convert a PowerPoint presentation, I want to know what I can convert it to. Can I convert it to this? So I've placed all these options. So we want to make sure that they can't convert it to something, like Excel or something that might be more difficult. We want to make sure that that drop-down list is dynamic based on whatever they've done here. Okay. Also, what I want to do is I want to add a little bit of code because I want to make sure that when they change this, this gets cleared out. That way we ensure it. And also, I want to do this. I want to, if I'm going to add a single file, I want a button here that says browse for file. So I want to source that file. If we want all files, I need to browse for the folder. And notice I've got a dynamic, already a formula in here, dynamic text. If E3 equals single file, then I want to put the label source file. Whereas if anything else, source folder. So notice how this changes between single file, source file. We're going to browse for a file. And what I want, if it's a file, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a button here that says browse file. And we're going to select a specific file. However, if we want to convert all of the CSV documents in a single folder to a single format, then I want to browse for that folder. And we're going to loop through every single document that's CSV or whatever we've chosen here. And we're going to convert every single one to whatever format's here. We're going to give it a destination folder. Once we convert it, where do we want to place it? Okay. Also, what do we want to do once I've converted it? What should I do with the original? Should I delete the original? Should I move the original? Or should I copy the original? Or should I just do nothing? Right. So that's what I want to do. I want to set. Then once I complete all that, I want to know what happened. I want the status. Was it converted from type to type? I want the file name. I want to know when and what date and what time it was converted on. And I want the download link or message here. I want to know when it's been download link, or perhaps there's a message. So that's going to provide us all that. So we're going to have all that information here. Really, really a powerful, just a very, very small screen, but very, very powerful because you can use this to convert almost any single file. And so really great. I'm going to share that with you. Now let's get these buttons working. I want some browse file buttons. So let's do that. Let's insert some buttons here. I'm going to insert some shapes. And we'll take care of that. It's relatively easy on the browse. So I'm going to have two buttons up here. One's going to be browse file and one's going to be browse button. So we're just going to add that in here. And we're going to call this is going to be for the browse file and browse folder. Browse file, and then we'll have another one for browse folder. So then I'm going to, let's right justify that, make sure everything is just the way we want it. Browse for the file, and I'm going to duplicate that, and we're going to call this browse for folder. Okay, and then we'll make that a little bit big. Okay, now browse for folder, these are going to be on top of each other basically, because it's going to either be browse for a file or browse for a folder. However, we're also going to need to browse. I want to know where we're going to put that. Where's the destination? So that's going to be a folder automatically. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate that, and I'm going to place that down here. Then what I want to do is I possibly want to move the file or copy the file to another folder. So I need another browse button right here. So I'm going to duplicate that with Control D, and I'm going to bring that down here. Okay, so then I'm going to line everything up here on the left or in the center and then left here. Bring those over. So that's what I want. Now we just need to add some icons here. So we have browse folder, we have browse file, and then that's all we need to do. So I'm going to insert some pictures here, and I've got some pictures saved up. So we've got a file search, a file, and then I'll do a refresh. I also want a convert button. So I'm going to insert all that. That's good for now. And then I'm going to set those to the height 0.2. That's going to be fine. So we're going to use, let's take a look at this. I'm going to use this browse folder. I'm going to use this 3 times. So I'm going to duplicate that because I want that for each of the folder. And then we're going to line those up here. And of course, we have the browse file too that we need to add. Then I'm going to highlight those, making sure that those are all lined up here, which they look good. And then also we're going to use this for the browse file. Now the browse file is right here. If we want to display that, all we need is just click the selection pane. And we look down here, we just keep it, I think it was the first one we created here inside the curve. Let's take a look at this one right here. Rounded rectangle, I think it's this one here. And I'm going to bring that to the front here. So I'm going to bring that to the front. There it is. There's the browse file. So I'm going to group that here. That's what I want. Bringing also this picture to the front. Holding down the control, lining those up, and grouping that. Now we're going to give that a specific name. I'm going to call that the browse source file button. So browse source file button, and I'm going to copy that because I'll make it easier, and then I'm going to hit enter. Okay, so that's good. Now I'm just going to move that to the back. We've already set that. Now what I want is I want the browse folder button. So then again, holding down the control here, lining those up, grouping them together, and then we're going to paste that in. This is not going to be the file, but it's going to be called the folder. So we're going to change that to folder and hit enter. Okay, so we might as well name these two, although it's not absolutely important because we're not going to be doing this. This one will be more important. So again, I'm just going to group these, and we're going to call this browse destination folder. That's going to be a bit easier. Browse, we'll just call this the destination. That way everything's numbered, a destination and then folder. And then this last one here is going to call this the move to, right? So that's going to be important because we need to know whether we're going to move to it. And we're just going to call this browse move to button. That's fine. Move or copy, move. Just say move or copy because we don't know which one's going to move, copy to button. Okay, kind of a long name, but that's good. This one here is going to be the one that actually activates. It's going to be the one that we turn on. So I'm going to insert one more button here. I just need to copy this. Control C, Control V. We're not using Control D because that's going to duplicate it inside the group. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the look of this one because this one's going to be different. I want this one is going to allow us to actually convert. So you're going to call it convert because we don't know if we're converting files or files. Convert, I'll call it file. And then put the S because we don't know if we're going to be converting one or more. So that can be fine. Convert files. And then we're going to bring this down here. This one can be a little bit bigger because it's going to be the most important one. So that's that's where all the action. It's going to single macro that's going to be able to take care of all of that for us. And then we'll bring the icon. I'm going to bring that on top here. And then we'll bring it down here. So that's going to be the one that converts everything, and that'll run our macro. Okay, so we've got that there. I like that way that looks. I'm just going to group that, and then we'll give it a name as well. And also we need to make sure we're going to size, but move but not size, convert files button. Okay, so now what we're going to use, we're going to use the selection tool. I want to make sure that if I change the columns or something, I want to make sure that these buttons do not size, but they do move with the cells. So let's do that under the properties. And then we'll go into here and then under the properties, move but don't size. If you regroup them, you're going to need to do that as well. Okay, saving our work so far. We've got our buttons. Everything's looking good here. We've got a good head start. We'll undo the selection. Now what I want to do is I just want to do some macros. If I select all files, I want browse folder to show up because it's all files within a specific folder. If it's a single file, I want the browse file to show up. So let's write some code to do that inside the developers in VBA. Alt F11 is going to get you there. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into here, right, the conversion manager, and we're going to write some worksheet change events, because when we actually make a change there, that's when I want the thing to happen. That's when I want that button to change over. So it's going to be based on E3. When I make a change to E3, depending upon the type of change, that's when I want the buttons to show or hide. So we're going to write some code, if not intersect, based on that E3. So we're going to change this to E3 here. And then what do we want to happen? Then, right, first of all, we want to make sure we write the then in. Then we want something to happen. It's going to be based on what they've selected. So if the target dot value is going to be equal to all files, then what do I want to do? Else something else. So if it's all files, then I want to show this browse. I want to show this and I want to hide the other one. So let's write that in right now. I just copied that. So shapes. What shape is that? Browse folder dot visible equals MSO true, where we want to show that browse folder, and we also want to hide the browse file. So shapes, this case, I'm gonna change that in a minute. Dot visible equals MSO false. Okay, but that's not the folder. This is the file, right? File. That's the one we called it. File button. Okay, and basically it's going to be just the opposite if we don't. Okay, so if we've chosen, so in this case, this is going to be false. And this is going to be C true. So I like that, saving our work so far, and we'll take a look at that. That's going to be on change. So if I double click that, it's going to say browse file. If we click all files, it's going to be browse folder. That's what I want. Perfect. Okay, we're going to do something here. I only want also the browse folder. I only want this move or this. I'm going to copy this. In the case of move to or copy to, then I want to make sure this shows up. Otherwise, I don't want it to show up at all. So that's going to be also based on a change. So let's write that up now. Let's put some notes on that. Let's put some memo here. It's going to be basically saying on conversion file or folder change. And this one's going to be based on move to, or we'll just call it source file after conversion. Let's call it on after conversion type change. And this one's going to be based on G9, right? G9. Let's take a look at that. G9 is what I want. On G9, then we want something to happen. So we're going to change this to G9. We'll put in the word then. We need that. Then, again, same thing. If the target value, but this time is going to be 2. If target dot value equals, what's it going to equal? Copy to file, either this one, copy to, or move to. So we need both of those things. Escape out of there, go back into the code, paste that in there, or what? Or it's going to be move to. So we can do or copy this, paste this in there, or move file to. Let's just take a look to make sure we have it, right? Move, in this case, it's going to be move file to. So we're going to change this to move. In that case, we want to make sure that we're going to show that. Otherwise, we're going to move file to. Then what do we want to do? Then, again, we're going to, this button here, this one here, we're going to be show or hide that based on the selection. We only want to show it if it's on move to or copy to. So that's one. Shapes, paste, dot visible equals true, MSO true, or false. Else, we put the else in here. Shapes dot visible equals MSO false. Okay, so only if that button's only going to show if it's this or this, otherwise no. Okay, so let's go ahead and save our work. Always save it, and then we're going to test it out. So that button's only going to show delete file. It should be hidden. Also should be hidden on do nothing, and we only want to show on move file to or copy file to. Okay, perfect. That's the way we like it. Good. All right, so now what we can do is we can start to get into some of these conversions, right? So let's add some macros going to be for the browse folder, browse file, and we'll start out with the browse file. So the first thing I want to do is write a macro for this. When I select that, I want to put that file directly inside i3. So let's write a macro to do just that. All right, very good. Actually, one more thing I wanted to do on this. Remember, I mentioned that when I make a change to here, I really want to clear this out. So let's do that right now. On any change of G3, I want to clear out G6 because that's important while we're on the sheet. So we'll clear this out and we'll put it up here. So, okay, that's pretty easy. If not, intersection G3, we'll put then, what do we want to do? Range G, let's take a look at that. 6, clear the contents out just on any change of that. That's important because we want to make sure that they don't get the wrong file type. 6 dot clear contents. Okay, put in the quotation here. All right, good. I like that though. On change of, it's going to be basically the source type change of source file type clear destination. We want to clear that clear destination type. Okay, so that looks good. So now basically anytime they change here, then I want this cleared out so they can select it. Just we don't want to write the wrong thing. Okay, good. So now we can get into the browse macros. Now we're pretty much done on this sheet. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the file folder. And the first thing I want to do is do browse for file. Now I've already added some things to help us source file as a source folder, as file dialog, destination folder. So that will help us out to make things a little bit quicker. So as we move through this, first thing we want to do is the browse for the file. So that's going to be this macro right here. So first of all, we're going to set the file type is going to be equal to, I want to make sure that we're going to be the right file. The file type is going to be equal to based on G3. So it's going to be the conversion. I've already named these conversion manager dot range G3. So that I want to know that because if we're going to browse for a file, I want to make sure that we're only browsing for XLS files, right? Or we're only browsing for CSV. So it's going to be based on this. Okay. So also what we can do is we can add the lowercase to this if we want to as well. Okay, so also if the file type doesn't equal empty, I want to make sure that they put in a file type. So if file type does not equal, or just put equals, empty and better, then let the user know. Message box, please select a file type. Or let's put in from file type. A from file type. Exit sub. Nothing we can do if we don't have that. Okay, assuming that we do have the file type, then we can do so we can set the source file is going to be equal to the application dot file dialog. That's the one right here. We're looking for a file picker. And that's the first option right here. File picker right here. And so once we have that, we can focus on that. So with the source, so with, now we're going to source file. What do we want to do? The first thing what I want to do is set a title to that. And then I'll put select a source file equals select source file. And then we could even do something like select source. Actually, we could do something like this. Select source and we could do the file type and then space source file. So that way we know the file type. So we're going to add in that select source. It could be select source PDF file. So that gives them a little more information. Allowing multi-select in this case, no. So that's going to be equal to false. We only want them to choose one record. And we also want to add some filters into that. Now the filters index, what we're going to do is we're going to add a filter onto that. Now that filter is going to be dynamic based on that. The file type and we're going to do space files. And then what we're going to do, because we only want whatever, it's PDF files or whatever it is, then we're going to do the asterisk, means it's going to be any type of name, dot, and then what we're going to do is, and we'll do lowercase, L case. In this case, we'll do the file type. That means only those types of files are going to be displayed. That's exactly what we want, so that they only select those types. Now we just want to ensure to see if they've selected something. So if dot show does not equal -1, -1 is if they've selected something. So if they haven't selected something, we need to give them a way out. So then go to, and then we'll just do no selection. And then all the way down here, just do no selection. And then the colon, so that way they can go. Otherwise, assuming that they have selected, what I want to do is I want to take that file, entire file path, and I want to place it directly in I3. So we'll do conversion manager, which is the sheet name, range I3 dot value is going to be equal to the selected items, just that one selected item that they've selected. Okay, Good. I like that there. Now all we need to do is just the folder, and then we're good to go. But let's check this out. Saving our work, and we're going to take this macro that we've just, and we're going to assign it to that brand new button. So this is the button that I want to assign it to. Right click, assign the macro, and click OK. So now when we browse the file, it's going to look for those files, and we're looking for CSV. I don't have any CSVs in there. So let's do PDF here. And then browse the file. Good, let's take a look. So it says select source PDF file. That's what I want. And then we'll do PDF file. That's the one we want there. And then what we want to do is source files here. Notice it's only showing those PDF files, so we can do patient intake form and click OK. Okay, so that's going to put that right in here, that file path. Great. Now what if it's a folder? Now in case they select folder, now I want a macro to browse the folder, right? Because I want a different macro. So let's write that macro up right now. So and I've got a just an empty macro here called source browse folder. That's what I want to use. And the next three are going to be very easy because they're going to be almost identical. So in this case, what we can do is we're going to set the source file. We can do source folder, source file. That's probably source folder is going to be more folder. Is going to be equal to application dot file dialog, and this time we're browsing for folder, right? Folder picker I want in this case, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to set the source folder. It's going to be already in that. Now with the source folder, what do we want to do? Now I want to do a few things with this. This time I'm going to give it a title, and this is going to be the title is going to be equal to select source folder. And then also I want to allow multi-select. No, in this case, obviously false. Only one folder at a time. And also what I want to do is just in case, again, I'm going to add this thing, I'll just go ahead and copy this. It's much easier. I'm going to copy this right here and then paste it down here and then make the adjustment. Obviously, this is not the one I want. So the conversion manager, it's going to be not I3. Where do I want to? Oh, that's fine. I3 is correct. The selected items, that's exactly right. That's where I want that. That's the folder path. Folder path will go right here. Okay, so that's for the folder. Okay, so we can move that up, and now what we can do is we can take this macro and assign it to this button here. Now they're selecting on a folder. So we're going to assign that macro here, paste that in, click OK. So if they want to select, if they want all the PDFs in this folder, selecting this folder, clicking OK. There we go. Now we've got the folder. Okay, so I want to select the destination folder and the copy to folder also. So we can do that. We can just copy the existing macro right here and then just make some small changes, pasting that in here, pasting that in here. In this case, it's not going to be source folder. We're going to the destination folder. And where do we want to place that destination folder? I want to place that destination folder right in I6. So that's all we need to update inside the code. This is going to be changed to I6. In this one, we're going to move or copy to folder. So we're going to select move or just copy to folder. And we want to place that right in I9. 9 is here. And we want to place that directly inside I9. Okay, we can test that. Now all we need to do is assign those macros. There's very quick ones. And this one's going to be the destination browse folder. And this is going to be the move or copy to folder. So we're going to assign the macro here. And it's going to be move or copy to browse folder. Okay, so we can browse for that. And then let's say we have the completed. We want to change it to that. We want the destination. Destination is going to be here and click OK. Now we've got our folders all set. Very good. We've got our set. So now we're ready to write the main macro. But how do we do that? I mean, how do we actually make that change so that we can automatically convert those files? Well, again, like I said, we're going to be using a few different things, and we're going to use this one here. We're going to use Integromat, and we're going to use this Cloud API Cloud Convert. Okay, so the best thing you want to start out is get yourself a Cloud Convert account. And then what it's going to do is it's going to assign you an API. And so once you create your free account, you'll go down and you want to look into the API. It's going to be here. You got your dashboard here. It's going to tell you how many things you want. And then what you want to do is you want to create an API. Inside your dashboard, you'll click on Authorization API and you click on API Keys. And I've already generated one, but what you can do is just create a new API key like this, create a new API key. You give it a name and a scope, and what that's going to do is just click create. And what I did is let's just do test here, and then you can give it a name here or anything you want. And then I've selected all of those just to make sure that you have every single function you need, and click create. Once you click create, you're going to have this massive API key, and then you'll just copy and paste all of this. And make sure you copy and paste, and I'll show you where you're going to paste that in. Now we're going to focus on Integromat. So the idea is this. When we want to send information, what I do is I want to send information to this API. I want to create a webhook, and that webhook is going to contain all the information that we want. And we'll walk you step by step. What should that information? Well, I need to know a lot. I need to know what form we're starting out of. Are we starting out of the PDF? And what do we need to convert it to? So I need a from type, and I also need a to type. I need to know if it's a source file or source folder. I also need to know where we're going to be placing it. And then, of course, if we're going to be copying it. So I need to know a lot of information inside the code. So what we can do is we can start writing the code. And then what we'll also do is when we come to it, we'll create the webhook and we'll walk you step by step. And that's going to be right here into Conversion Manager. Now, I've already dimensioned some variables to save us the time because you usually get those wrong anyways. And I also have one function that's going to help us download using URL mom. That's going to, once we do create that converted file, we need a download link and we need to place that link in somewhere inside our computer. So that's going to help us. This download link is going to help us. What this is going to do, this API here, once we convert the file, it's going to provide us with a download link. This API is going to provide us with that download link. We're going to get that download link. We're going to send it back into Excel. I want to place that download link right here. I want to use that download link to download the file and place it wherever our destination folder is. Relatively simple, just a few stops, and the macro is not that technical, so we're going to go step by step through it. Okay, so the first thing what I want to do is just remember this PTR save function is going to help us download that file once we get the URL link. We're going to dimension the JSON. We need a response back from our webhook. URL is a string. We need to send it. We need to send the file. We need to receive the file. Customer email, that I don't need. Item, some old information. Item description, got in this we don't need here as well. Sorry about that. I forgot to clear out those. Okay, so I need a from type. What type are we? What is the from type? Could be from PDF to Word or whatever it is. To type. I need to know the move or copy. Are we moving it or copying it, or we do nothing? Convert type. What type of conversion? And I want to know the file name, also the full name. The source location, what location is the source? I want to know the destination location. That's going to come in handy. So we're going to need the source file, the destination location, and the path. What is the full path of that destination after we convert it? And then the download URL, we're going to get that from it. And then also I want to know the file row. If we're going to be placing information on this, I want to know what row to place it on. So we're going to need that. And also what I want to do is the return value that could help us when we use the download. Okay, so let's start writing this macro now. And what we're going to do is we're going to go, as soon as we need the webhook, we're going to go in to Integromat and we're going to write that. Integromat's a great tool. So we're focused on one sheet here primarily. So we're going to just do with Conversion Manager. That is the sheet name. If you want to make sure you got that, put the dot to make sure you got the sheet name right. That is the name that I've assigned to this sheet right here, Conversion Manager. Okay, that's the sheet that we're going to be doing all of our work from. So I need to get some variables. So what is the type? What is the conversion type? So convert type is going to be equal to E3. I want to know, are we doing all files or a single file? That's called convert type, and that's going to be located in E3. So we're going to say, well, let's just call the conversion type. I'm going to put a memo note on that comment here. Convert type, it's either going to be all files or single file. Also, what I want to do is I want to know the from type. The from file type, is it PDF? What are we converting from? From type is going to be equal to, and that's going to be G3. G3. So convert from, call it convert from file type. Also, what I want to know is the to type. To type is going to be equal to, that's going to be G6. G6 is where convert to file type. Okay, so we've got the to type. I also want to know the destination location. The destination, where do we want to place that once we've done? Destination location is going to be equal to dot range located I6. That's going to be an I6. That's the destination location. Okay, what I also want to know is I want to then actually replace that here. What do I mean replace? Actually, we don't need that. We've got that covered here. Destination located, that's sufficient right there. So also what I want to know is the after conversion. After conversion, that's going to be located inside G9. equals .range G9. What do we want to do when we have to convert it? Just in case, right? I want to know if we're going to be moving it or filing it. So we're going to use a select case on that one because there's multiple options. So that's going to be located in G9. Put that into a string variable, and we're going to call that string variable after conversion. Okay, we'll just call this after conversion details. So once we have that, I also want to know if we're going to move or copy. Move the folder, move, copy to folder. If we're going to be moving it or copying it, we need to know the folder. And that's going to be located in I9, just in case. If it's delete or if it's nothing, we won't need that. So move or copy to folder location. So now that we have that, we also want to know, we want to determine, now we're going to focus on the source file because that's very important. We need to know, is it going to be a source file or is it a source folder? Source file or source folder. So if convert type, it's already in E3, we've already defined it, is equal to single file, then we're going to do something. Else, we're going to do something else. So first of all, this is obviously going to be single file, or we're going to loop through files in a folder, or loop through files in a folder. Okay, so we're going to write all the code if it's a single file, and then we're going to basically copy and paste that code and just run a loop through this. So these are all the files in the folder or a single file if the convert type equals single file. So what are we going to do if it's a single file? First of all, we're going to do I need to know the source file. In this case, the source file is going to be equal to located in whatever's in I3. That's going to be our source file, just a single file in this case, source file path. So basically that's what it is. And then assuming the source file, now what I want to do is I want to determine what is the file name. So the file name is going to be equal to, it's going to be the directory of the source file. I just want the name of that, source file VB directory. Okay, so once we have that, but also I don't want to know the file name. In this case, in this particular case, not only this is going to get me the file name and the extension, but I don't want that. In this case, I only want the file name without the extension. So how do we get that? Well, I'm going to use replace on that. Replace, what do I want to replace? I want to replace both the dot, right, and the file type and the from type, right? What is that from type? That is going to be, I want to remove that. So if I want to remove that, all I need to do is replace both of those with nothing. So we're going to replace those with nothing. So that's going to give me only the file name without the extension, without the period or the dot. Okay, so now that we have just the pure file name, now what I want to do is I want to get the source and the destination file source. So let's put that in. Get source and our destination file, and I'll explain that. Okay, so we have the source file is going to be equal to, now what I want to do is I need to replace it. If we put it into when we send it over, we need to replace all of those backslashes with forward slashes. So we need to run a replace on that because I want to know that, right? If we're going to send that to them, we need to replace all of that because it won't, those backslashes, we're going to be sending it through a hyperlink. We need to change that out because it only recognizes those forward slashes. So how do we do that? So we can do that. The source file is going to equal to, we'll do replace. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the write in the source file, and I'll explain this. I want to use the length of the source file, source file. Basically, what I want to do is, here's what I want. When I send this, I don't want this. I don't want Dropbox, right? I know all that. I want this. I want only this part here and the file extension, right? So in fact, in this time, we're doing just a file. So let's focus on that. Actually, let's do PDF in the source. All right, so let's put this in a single file and then change this to browse file, and let's get a PDF here. So basically what I want to do is if I'm going to be sending this, I only want to look it up here. I want to look for Dropbox. I want to remove everything here. So I want to remove all that based on wherever the word Dropbox is located, because we're using a Dropbox file. That's how we're going to upload that file. So if it's a Dropbox, we already know all this. All I need is this. All I need is this right here. So I need that. But also what I want to do is inside that, I want to take all those backslashes and replace them with forward slashes. So we're going to get the right. I want the right of this. And I want to remove this. And it's going to be based on wherever this Dropbox is located. So we're doing two things in this line of code. We're determining all of this. I only want to extract this portion here. And I want to change all of these backslashes to forward slashes. So how do we do that? So we're going to use the replace and the right function. And that's what we're writing right now. So the length, we're going to get the right of the source file, but where do we want it? It's going to be the length of the source file minus what? Looking for that Dropbox. Where are we going to find that? We're going to use instring to find that. And what am I looking for? I'm looking inside the source file. And what am I looking for? I'm looking for the word Dropbox. So Dropbox, make sure we use the cases right. That's it. So I'm going to look for that, and I want to subtract out the length. I don't want the length of Dropbox. Obviously, we could do this. If it's multiple, obviously we know the length of Dropbox. But if we had a dynamic, we would put it in here, Dropbox. We could also use 7 too, of course. But in this case, you can use this with multiple. You would just change it if you're using a different type of shared folder, so that would be easier. You could do that. Dropbox plus 1, you wouldn't have to change the number. Plus 1, okay, because we also want to add in that slash. Then what are we going to replace it with? I'm going to replace it. What am I looking for? I'm looking for those backslashes. And what do I want to replace them with? I want to replace them with the forward slashes. That's it. And that's all we have to do. Let's take a look at that. Okay, that looks good. So what that's going to do is just going to isolate that Dropbox link. It's going to prepare that link to send over so we know where to pull that file directly from. Where's that source file? We're pulling it from a Dropbox file. Okay, so now what we do is we're ready to send it. We've got all the variables we need and we're ready to send. Now we're going to build that webhook, what we need it, but let's do that right now. Let's call this send details to webhook. That's what we're going to do. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to set the object HTTP equals, we're going to create an object in late binding, create object. And what are we creating? I'm creating an MSXML2 dot server XML HTTP. Make sure we got that right. Okay, so create object MSXML2 server XML HTTP. Okay, that's going to set that object. Now we're ready to do it. So on error, what we're going to do is just in case there's an error, go to, let's just call it hook issue. Maybe you don't have something right or the issue, or you don't have it set up. So that's going to go all the way down here, and just going to be hook issue. So we can skip all that. Okay, so there's an error. Can't move forward. Okay, assuming that there's no error, then we can do on. What we want to do is build that URL. So the URL is going to be equal to, this is where our webhook's going to come in right here. I need that webhook. Let's just put temporarily in webhook. We're going to replace that in a moment. Okay. And then what we want to do is add in the question mark and all of our details there. So then once we have the webhook there, we're going to add in question mark, and then we want to put in the source file. That's important. What is that source file? And equals to, what is it going to be equal to? And of course the source file. That's the variable. So this is the label here, source file. This is the variable, source file. I also need to send the from type. So and the from type, and using our and separator inside the quotation, from type equals, again, then we need and we need the from type. I'm using the same labels and the same variables. It's much easier. And what else? We need to send more. So using the and sign after the from type, what I want to do is I want to add in the to type. So to type is going to be equal to, and the and to type. Okay, good. And what else? We need to add more information. Let's drop the row down here. After the to type, we also want to make sure we use the destination. So and file name, that should be sufficient, equal to, because the destination will come in after, right? After we get the download, then we put it in. So file name, and of course the variable file name, I need to know that. Okay, so that's good. So we were going to put in our webhook here. We haven't done that. We'll be putting that in a moment. Okay, so let's just go over it. We need the source file. We're going to be sending the source file. We need to know what from type. We need to know what type to convert it to, and we need to know the file name. So we have everything there that we're able to send that. Once we have that, we're going to get a response back, but we need to send it first. So how do we do that? First thing is we're going to do object HTTP dot open. So we're going to open, and we're going to use patch. Make sure you use capital letters here. In this case, we're going to use patching, and then what are we going to URL? We're going to send that URL. We're sending that URL, and then false. Okay, so once we've sent it, what we want to do is get a response. So first thing, object, and then just send that object, HTTP .send. Got to send that over there. And what are we sending? We're going to send it information. So the next thing is what we want to do is once we've opened it, we need to set the request header. So what are those request headers? Object, HTTP .set request header. In this case, it's going to be the content type is JSON. So content dash type is going to be equal to JSON. So application JSON, application \JSON. That's the JSON. That's our JSON. That's what we're sending over. Okay, so with that JSON, what we want to do is send that out. So now we're ready to send it. Object, again, HTTP .send. We're going to send that the JSON file. So we're sending that over. We're going to send the information. Send information. Okay, once we've got this sent, I want to get a response back. So the response that we get back from them in the webhook response, so the response is going to be equal to the object HTTP response text. That's going to get us the response text back. Okay, and once we get it back, what I want to do is I want to put that information into a row. So we need to do a file row is going to be equal to .range. Where is it going to be located? D, I want column D, 99999, end XL up, .row, .end, XL up, .row plus 1. It's going to be the first available row. First available row. So what do we want to do? Now what I want to do is I want to check to make sure that we have the right response. So that to make sure. So if what I want is that URL download, that's going to be our response. That URL, where do we download that converted file? If in string, I'm going to check that out. Response. And then what I'm looking for, I'm just going to look for HTTP. Okay? Because if it's in there, that means we know we set the screen. If it does not equal 0, that means it's been found. That means there's a URL response, and that's what I'm looking for. Then what I'm going to do is, and then else here. So if it contains HTTP, that means it's a correct response. That means we have a download link. What do I want to do? I want to place that download link. I want to put it right down here into I and whatever row, and I also want to put the status and everything else here. So let's do that now. So the status in this case is going to be converted, right? We know it's been converted. So D in the file row is going to be equal to converted. So let's do that right now. .range D and the file row .value equals converted. We know it's been converted. Okay, but what if it hasn't? Well, in that case, we're going to put not converted. So in case it's otherwise, let's just say put not. A response does not contain HTTP. So it's something else. There's probably an error or response or something like that. Okay, so we've got that. So we know that. But also, if it does contain converted, if it does, then I want to capture whatever that response inside a URL. The download URL is going to be what we're getting. So the DL URL is going to be equal to the response. We need that because we need to download that file. Response. Okay, so now what do we have? Now what I want to know is once we get that, where are we going to place it, right? We've got the download URL. Once we have it, when it downloads, where are we going to place it? Well, we're going to place it right here inside whatever folder inside i6, but we've already determined that inside our destination location right here. So that's where we're going to place it. So we have that already. So the destination path, I want a path for that destination. Destination path is going to be equal to, it's going to be right here, our destination location right here. So we can copy that right up here. Our destination, that's where we want to place it once it's downloaded, equals the destination location. And I also want to add in a backslash. So, and the backslash. And what else do we want? Well, of course, I want to put in the file name. The file name, remember that file name is just the pure file name without the extension. So we need to add in that to extension, right? What are we converting it to? So it's going to be the to extension. So destination path here, in this case, is going to be to type and the to type. So, and we need to add in that, of course, the dot in there, period there, and the to type. 2 type, right? What is the 2 type again? It's going to be this type right here, 2 type. What difference in G6? We've already named it. Okay, so it's the 2 type. So the destination path is going to be the location of the file name and the 2 type. That's going to get us our destination path. Once we have both of our download link and our, let's put in there, download link, and we have our destination path, we can run our function that's going to do just that. So we have this return value. We'll just set that up, return value. What is that? That's the function that we created up here. Actually, we didn't create it. I created it. It's here, private declare function. This is what I'm going to do. We've used this in a previous training. We're going to use this library. Basically, this library allows us to download using a file link. We have, it's called URL download to file. And basically the basic parts of it, the most important are the URL in which we're going to download it here. And then also what we have is the name, the path, what we're going to use here. So once we have those 2 things, we can download it into a path. And that's what we're going to do right here. So the return value is going to be equal to, we're going to use that here. So the URL download to file. And here it is. I'm going to use 0 as our first range. Then we're going to use the download link DL URL. That's the link that we're downloading. The destination path. Where do we want to place the destination path? Then all we have is a 0 and then 0. Okay, so that's it. That's all we have. This is going to be download. This is what it does. Downloads file and places it in destination folder. Destination folder. Good. So now we're ready to place the rest of the information. So what I've done here is going to place it as, we've already had this in D. So now I just want to replace the rest of this information in E, F, G, H, and I. So we're going to do that inside the code here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to build it out. So the rest of the code here, all we need to do is just copy this, and then we're going to paste that information in here. So we're going to bring this down a little bit here so we can see it, and bring this up a little bit here so we can see exactly where we want to place and where. So inside, we've already placed D, but we need to place E. So E is going to contain what? The from type. So E is going to equal to the from type. Then we have, of course, F is going to be the to type. I want to know what it's been converted. Equals to type. Then in G, what we're going to have, that's going to be equal to, I want to put that file name is going to equal to, it's going to be really bit here. So the file name is going to be just this file name and the destination here. That's going to be in G. So place that. It's going to be the file name, the new file name basically. And then what I want to do in F, I want to place, let's copy that here. F is going to be the current date and time. So it's going to be, just going to use now for that. F is going to equal to now, current date and time. Then, of course, in G, I want to know that, let's get H. This is H. There we go. In I, we want that download link. There we go. I is going to be what? I is going to be that response. Whatever the response was, I want to put it in here, response. Going to put, there we go. Okay, so that's kind of self-explanatory. Okay, so E, F, G, H, and I, we've got everything there. Perfect. So that's going to be, of course, if it's only a single file path. Now what I want to do is, what are we going to do after? After we've put everything in here, what are we going to do? Are we going to delete it? Are we going to move it, do nothing, or whatever? So let's put that in. Now we're going to use select case for that. We've already defined what's in G9. We've already done it right here inside here. After conversion. So that's what we're going to use on the select case. So what I'm going to do right down here is I'm going to put then move, copy, delete, or nothing. Okay, so select case is going to be equal to after conversion. Let's paste that here. We don't need it. So what do we want to do after we get it? So if the case is what we can do, we got a little 4 different cases, but really only 3. Nothing, we don't need to do anything with that. So in this case, case is equal to, let's say delete file, then what I want to do. In this case, I'm going to kill it. Killing what? Kill means clear it. Kills it out. Whatever's in I3. So basically, whatever's in I3, I want to do it. Kill dot range I3 is going to whatever file name, because this is not I3. So it's going to delete the file. So what about this? Now we can just basically copy this and then we can paste it in. So in this case, not delete file. So let's see if it's deleted. In this case, what about if it's move? What if we want to move file to? What if we want to move it somewhere? In that case, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to use name as, in this case, name. Name, what are we naming? And we're going to use as. So inside here, I'm going to put the current file. So in this case, it is I3. So in this case, we'll just put i3, naming i3, whatever the current file is, i3, moving it. So using name as, and what is the destination? In this case, we're going to use the destination. So how do we do that? Well, where do we want to move to? We've already had the place here. We've already set move to. Oops, I need to put equal there. Didn't miss that. Nobody told me. Okay, so move or copy to. In this case, what I want to do is as move to. So this is the location, and I want to add a backslash onto here. Backslash. And where are we going to move it? And what is the file name? And I'm going to use the directory because I just want the file name, whatever is in i3. Basically, I want to take the file name of this, just only the file name, directory of this, VB directory. I'm going to move it to there. So that's it. That's going to be moved to. So basically, we're going to name this as move to. We've got to add in the sheet names here. That's important. So the conversion manager, put in the sheet names, otherwise it's not going to work. And then we're going to copy this sheet name, place it in directly also in here too. So basically what we're going to do is just going to move this. We're taking this value here, whatever's in i3, we're naming it as whatever where we wanted the move to the folder here, plus the backslash, plus basically the file name, just the current file name, not the changes. We're going to move it over. So that's the move to. But what about copy to? What if it's copy to? In this case, I'm just going to copy this here. The last one we're going to focus on is copy to, copy file to. So in this case is going to be copy file to. Copy, if the case is copy, we're going to, right, we want to copy it over. In this case, we're going to use file copy. So we're going to change this to file copy, and then what I want to do is just a comma insert. So instead of as, we're going to use a comma. We're going to copy that. So that's there. And then we're going to use a comma here instead of comma. There we go. So that's all we're going to do. So in this case, file copy, we're copying what here, and we're copying it over to here. So that's all we have to do. Now all we need to do is loop through the files and folders. Let's take a look at our code real quick up here, see if we have any issues. In string destination path, that looks okay. I think I saw something here that doesn't look right here. Replace here, did not spell that right. And this one here, we don't need a T here, and fix that up. So let's write the rest of it. So now everything we've done is for a single file, but what if we want to loop through all the files in a folder? We just need to create a loop, pretty much the same. So let's do that. So this time what I want to do is I want to set, now we've got the source location, not a source file. This is going to be the source location located in i3. So let's set that up into a variable. So source location is going to be equal to i3. Okay, so that's just the location. And then also what I want to do is I want to add the backslash onto that. So and the backslash, because I want to get the source location. It's going to be called the source location in this case. So the source location, I also want the full name of what it's going to be. Name is going to be equal to the directory of the source location, because we want to set a dynamic directory of the source location and any file, and using the asterisk here, which is going to be our wildcard, dot and the file type, right? We're looking for any file with the from type. So there. So basically I want to map out any file that has inside the source location that has the from type. In this case, it would be any PDF in this particular folder, right? So right now, let's move this over. So now we're focused on any type, anything in this source folder. So any PDF in the source file, we've added the backslash onto it. We're looking for any PDF. So perfect. So now it's going to look for that automatically. So now what we can do is we can continue on with that. And I want to do a do while loop. So do while the length of the file name, the full name, going to continue on, is greater than 0. Okay, it's going to start our loop. Start loop. This is going to end our loop. So inside that loop, what I want to do is I want to set the source file. So the source file is going to be equal to dot range. It's going to be i3, right? It's going to be that folder i3. We can also use, actually we can use the source location here. We don't need that source location. We've already defined that, so we don't need to do source location and the file name. So combining those source source location plus the file name is going to get us our source file. So now we have it. So now what we can do is we can use that. But again, we need to change out those backslashes, right, to forward slashes. So we can do that with here. Source file is going to equal replace. And also, again, we also want to do the same thing we did before. I can just copy and paste it. I want to locate this and I want to take everything out here, and I only want to do that. So let's copy and paste because we've already written that up here. In fact, we wrote replace wrong last time, so we should probably do it right this time. So basically, I want to do all of this right here, this here. So there's all we need to do. Just copy that. Same exact thing here. Okay, nothing different on there. Replacing the source file, length of source file. All right, so we replaced all those. Now, once we have that, file name is going to be equal to the same thing we did up here. So we can copy this. The file name here going to be equal to the source file, the VB directory. Okay, so we've got that up here, the file name, setting that up here and placing it directly down here. The file name is going to be the source file, VB directory. Okay, let's fix the file. And the file name is going to be equal to, in this case, we're going to use replace the full name and replace that full name. In this case, I only want that file name without the extension. So again, we're going to replace it. What are we replacing it with? I'm going to replace the dot here and the from type. And what are we going to replace it with? With nothing. So that's going to extract only that file name without the extension. So again, doing the same thing we did before, but this based on the full name, based on this full name. Once we have that, we can do everything else is the same. So let's copy what we have up here. We have everything up here. So basically from here, we're going to copy everything down here. Nothing else is different. Nothing else has changed. Copy all of that here and place it directly in here. We're going to do that for each one. Okay, so let's maximize this so we can just take a look at that because it's a lot of code. Else, so we're getting the source location. We're determining the full name based on the from type. We're going to do for every single file in the loop, we're going to determine the source file name. We're going to remove those backslashes and change it with forward slashes, and we only want the right part of the link that excludes the dropbox. We're going to get that file name. We're going to, out of the file name, I only want the name without the extension, without the dot. That's going to do it here. We're going to send those details, all those details, to our webhook. We haven't added in our webhook here above or below, so we're going to do that. Sending all the information, determining the file row just as we did before, getting that information into the URL, putting that inside our destination path, downloading it just as we did before, placing all the information here, then determining what we're going to be doing with it. And that, in this case, is all within this loop here because we're going to do that for each file. So do while, we're going to add that in right here. Let's separate that out and tab that over. So all of this happens within the loop here. That's it. Okay, so going out of that, now what we need to do is before we can change anything, we need to actually get our information. We need to get our webhook and our automation done. So let's do that right now. Going inside Integromat, if you don't know about Integromat, a great tool, up to 1,000 automations for free. I do have a link below if you want to be able to create your own automations. Very cool. And I worked it out with Integromat to give us a free month of the basic program. So that's pretty cool of them. That link will be down below. So basically what it is allows you to create automations. If you've seen my videos in the past few months, we've been using this a lot because it really extends the power of Excel. And really, so today we're going to be using it. All we need to do is just create this. We need to create a scenario. So we're going to create a new scenario, and we're going to start it out with a webhook. Change a few things around. Notice that they changed a few things around. So I'm going to search for webhook. I'm going to add that in. So we want to scroll down here until you look for webhooks. So we're creating not a custom mail hook. Let's get rid of that. So we're creating a brand new webhook here, and we want to create a custom webhook. We're going to click add, and then we're going to just call it anything we want. We're just going to give it a name, convert files here. That's fine. No IP restrictions. We'll click save. Okay, what that's going to do is going to get us this webhook here. So we're going to copy the address to the clipboard. It is this webhook that I'm going to paste in both of those locations. So I'm going to paste it right here, getting rid of that webhook, making sure that you have the quotation marks and making sure that we ends with the question mark here. I'm going to do the same thing above here in our other one, our first one. So we have two of them. I'm going to paste it directly in here. We're going to use the same webhook. again, saving our work. Okay, so if we run this macro now, what I wanted to do, let's take a quick look back on here. What I wanted to do is I want this to go green. So when I run that macro the first time, that's going to go green. It's going to get all that information in. So I'm going to click run here, and then I'm going to take a look inside here, and you see it's gone successfully determined. I'm going to click OK. And that's just what I want. So if we take a look in here, we're going to see everything. So now what I want to do is I want to add another feature. What do I want to do? I want to send that information, and I want to upload it to Dropbox. So we're going to add another one called Dropbox. So Dropbox is a great feature. Now I have tried this with Google Drive and Microsoft OneDrive. Lots of problems with those, lots of issues with those. So Dropbox is my go-to one. You can try those, but I've had lots of issues. So what I want to do with, I want to upload the file, right? It's already in there, so I want to upload that file. And so what do I want to do with Dropbox? What I want to do is I want to create or update a shared link. Create or update a shared link, because it is that shared link that I want to send to Cloud Convert. So shared link is what we want to do. Okay, what I want to do is, how are we going to select files? Are we going to select a file or folder, or are we going to map a folder? We're going to map it because we've already got that. And where is it located? It's located in this source file right here. That's it. I want to make sure that there's a public visibility here. We don't need to add an expiration date or access level onto that. So that is where, remember, here's the format. Remember, we don't want the Dropbox. We want those forward slashes, and we want the file name. So that's all we want. We want to make sure it looks exactly like this. That's why we have changed those links, and that's why we've gotten rid of everything before Dropbox, because that's the format that we're looking for, and click OK. So again, we're going to upload a shared link. We're mapping a shared folder. You need to add your Dropbox. If you click here, it'll automatically connect your Dropbox very simply. Google Drive's a nightmare. OneDrive's a nightmare. So really, Dropbox is the best way to go. Okay, so next what I want to do is I want to send that link, that public, once we've updated it, I want to send it over to our Cloud Convert. And so to do that, all I'm going to do is going to type in Cloud Convert. Click on Cloud Convert. Okay, so now remember, when you get this the first time, it's going to ask you for that API key. So all you need to do is just put in that API key. Remember, we copied that API key here. Going to put it in here. So what do I want to do? I want to convert a file. I'm going to click Convert to File. And what is the input file? Am I going to be importing a file from a URL, or am I going to be uploading a file? So what is the input file? So in this case, we have a URL. That URL is going to come directly from Dropbox. It's going to be this download URL. Notice we created or updated a shared link. That file is going to create a download URL. There's this download URL that I want to place directly here. Okay, what else do I want to do? I want to convert options. What is the format? What format? I want to select the input format, right? What is the input format here? The input format, we know it's going to be map file. Remember, we don't want to select a specific one. We want to map it because we already know it. What is it coming from? It's going to come from this from type. This from type, remember, we sent 4 things from our webhook. We sent a source file. We sent a from type. We sent a to type, and we set the file name. So the from type is what we're going to map it. And what is that output format? That's also going to be mapped to the to type, right? What are we converting from to? And what is the file name? Well, the file name is going to be here, and the file name including the extension, right? So the file name is for the output. The file name dot, right? The to type. That's going to be our full file name. Remember, this file name doesn't have the extensions, right? We sent it without extensions because we want to do dot and we want to change it to to type. That is going to be the including the extension. That's the output file, right? The input file and the output file. Clicking OK. That's all we have to do. Conversion in specific, if we want to add specific file, or export to download. We don't need that now, so click OK. All right, so now that we have that, all we need to do is get a response back. So the next step is just clicking on response, and then we're going to click here and webhooks, and I want a webhook response. Now, what webhook response do we want? I want to get that temporary. Notice Cloud Convert created these information, the file name. All I want is that temporary URL. Remember, that's the URL that we want in our response, and we're going to click OK. That's going to send this all back, and we're going to click Save, right? So that's going to be everything we have there. All right, so now what we do is we have our webhook, we're creating our custom webhook. We're going to upload that file to our Dropbox. We're going to take the link that's provided by Dropbox. We're going to convert it, send it over to Cloud Convert. We're going to convert that file, and we're going to send the response, the URL, the converted file, into the webhooks there. That's all we're going to do. Okay, so we can turn it on, or we can run it once. So let's run it once. Make sure you save it here. Clicking Run Once, it's now going to look for that file. Now back inside, let's double check, make sure I'm gonna use a single file this time. I want to use a single, let's browse for that file. I'm gonna look for the source file, making sure that I want to use the patient intake form, clicking OK. I want to turn it into a DOC, and I want to put that DOC directly inside our destination files here. I'm gonna put it there. Once we do that, right after we conversion, let's say we want to move the file to our completed. So I'm going to browse for that. I'm going to go completed. I want that to be in the completed. There we go. So now we've added it to completed. Okay, so now all we need to do is right click and assign this macro to our run conversion. That's the one we just clicked. And we're going to click, of course, save before we run it. So now double check to make sure we're still running. It's still looking for it. And let's take a look to see if we have any issues. We've already copied in those webhooks, so that's good. That's our step. Now we're going to click convert, and we're going to take a look back inside here. We're going to watch it run. All right, and take a look at what happened. It's giving us an error. The data valid input the input format must be lowercase. Okay, we forgot to do that. Let's do that up right now. So all I need to do is just making sure the from and to are lowercase. The to type, from type, let's add these. I want to make sure these are lowercase, L case. Okay, that's important because we don't need them in uppercase at all. And then I'm going to do the same thing here, L case. Bring them to lowercase. We should put that in there. Okay, so now I'm going to put in here lowercase, and we're going to do the same thing here. So we want both of those in lowercase. It's saying that it only wants them in lowercase, not uppercase. That's fine. Again, resetting, saving our work. We're just going to run it once, go back in here. The errors tell us we can close this out here, run it once again. It's going to now run. Now what we can do is just run the macro again, convert the file, take a look inside here, and we'll watch it run. Okay, it's getting uploaded Dropbox. Now it's going to be uploading. Okay, now it's completed. Let's take a look. Let's follow the path of what happened. Okay, here's what happened. We uploaded the source file. We from type PDF to type DOC. The patient, just the raw file name without the extension, the file name. That looks good. Take a look inside Dropbox. Here's what we input. We've inputted all the information. We've mapped the file. The output, we've gotten a URL. That's important. We need that. The link, the download link, the link permissions are here. Everything, we got the path, the lowercase there. Okay, so inside our, initially we got the export information, import options, right? We've got our download link directly from Dropbox here. We've gotten a temporary URL. Here's that temporary URL, that the output from Cloud Convert. It's that temporary URL that got put in the response. So we see how it works inside here. We'll take a look back in our Excel here. We've got a few issues on those, but this one converted, our last one, the ones we had issues with. Perfect. So the file name converted, the last one converted because we fixed our issues from type PDF to type DOC. The file name's patient that it got converted on, and we've got a link that wants. And let's take a look inside our destination files to make sure that that got converted. We'll take a look inside our folder structure here. Source files here. Here's the one. Here's our source, the PDF. Let's take a look at our original source here. That looks good. Okay, and now what about our destination? Where did it come to? Let's take a look at the destination, the Word file that got created. Double clicking on here, opening up Word and taking a look at, there it is right here. Now we have that file converted into a Word file automatically. Very cool. Okay, that works great for a single file, but what if we have multiple files? What if I want to loop through them? So let's do that right now. So let's go inside our source files here. Here's our source files. And now maybe I want to convert every, let's say, DOC to PDF. Why don't we change this? Now I want to convert every DOCX, let's do that, into a PDF, and I want to put it inside our destination inside here. So let's do that now. Inside, now we're going to do all files. Every file that is DOCX, every file, we're going to browse for that folder inside our source files, every DOCX inside our source file. And what do I want to do? I want to convert it to, let's say, PDF. And where do I want to put it? And where do I want to put it? Once it's done, I want to put it inside our destination, clicking OK. Once it's finished, I want to copy it to, or we'll do copy to our completed folder. That's fine, just the way it is, our completed. Okay, good. So now we want to do for every DOCX file, I only have one because it'll take too much time. And then I want to put the information down here. So let's go ahead and save our work. And also we're going to turn on, now what we're going to do is this is completed, right? I'm going to save our work. I'm now going to turn on our scenario. I want to run it immediately, activate it. So now it's running. And now what I want to do is we're going to go in and run that macro. So we're going to go back in here, convert those files, and take a look. So let that convert. Okay, well, let's see, didn't convert. Let's take a look at why it didn't convert. I think we found an issue here under this. Let's take a look. Okay, there's no source file. Look, the source file doesn't have a file name. We need to put that on. Whoops. Okay, let's take a look at that. Source file, else. Okay, our source file's here. We need to put the file name at the end of that. That's got to go here. So all we need to do is just put in that name, file name under there. Okay, so we have it here. Full name. So all we need to do is put the full name here at the end of this right here. Source file, we need to add in this because it's the full name. So we need to add in the file and the full name. Okay, that's going to be better. So now we've got that. I want to put the full name of the file at the end of the folder, right? That's important, saving our work. And then what we'll do is we've already got this turned on. Let's double check to make sure that our diagram, it's turned on and running. You always want to make sure it's running. Everything was okay with this. And then we'll just click on the diagram here and make sure that that's running. Now what we can do is just run our macro again. Now we've got the file name, click convert file, and let that go through its work. All right, now that it's completed, we see that it's converted docx to PDF. We'll take a look inside the folder. We've got our link here up inside our, now what we do is we have our destination. Now we have our student enrollment form inside a PDF. Automatically, it started out with a doc. Notice it started out there, and let's take a look at that. And then what we do is we have here our file conversion, and we've got our original source here, our student enrollment form here from Word, now automatically inside a PDF, automatically change PDF. Awesome. This has been a really cool, very, very cool training. Thank you so much for joining me on this training. I really do appreciate it. If you like these, I would really appreciate it if you could pick up that 200 workbook. That's going to be an amazing pack. You will have so many incredible applications to work with. 200 of my best. That's only $77. I appreciate it. We will see you next week for another incredible training. Thanks so much. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next week.